line that the league has been pushing and making money off of all year long. And so, in classic NBA fashion, even though David Stern is no longer the commissioner and Adam Silver is, in classic, he was his understudy for many, many years. So, in classic Stern-like fashion in the NBA, they do everything they can to subtly and within, the gray area, manipulate everything they can to give the Warriors the best chance to still get back into and win the series. And that, much to my dismay, is exactly what happened. Now, don't get me wrong. The Thunder still did plenty of things to lose it as well. There was plenty of decision making and just execution on plays that they failed to do that could have and should have got them the victory in the series. They only had to win 1 out of 3 games. They had 3 games in a row to just win one of them, and they couldn't do it. Now your talkers in OKC, or is Kevin Durant going to re-sign because he's a free agent now? Now that the season's over, Russell Westbrook is going into the final year of his contract. How is this team going to stay together? What decisions and changes aren't going to be made? Those are all talkers for another time, but I will tell you this right now. Kevin Durant is not leaving the Oklahoma City Thunder. Not this season, not next season, probably not ever. That is not the type of dude he is at all. That's not the type of relationship that he has with the organization there, and there is a less than 1% chance that Kevin Durant is playing for anyone besides the Oklahoma City Thunder next year and the following year to come after that. One final note, though, don't be surprised if he does sign a 1-year, $26 million contract or whatever, because after next season, all the teams will be getting a huge bump in money because of new TV contract deals. So the contracts and salaries are all gonna go up after this coming off season, once next year's off season hits. So don't be surprised if you see that from him and several other free agents this season. But back to the main story. So that's what went down in that Western Conference series, how it all played out. But what got me on fire, and what I'm still on fire about, is Draymond Green kicking a dude in the balls repeatedly, blatantly, on purpose. Okay, now this upset me so bad. I took to Twitter, and if you are smart enough and cool enough to follow me on Twitter at BDST Show, you know that I love to go to war on Twitter with people when they say or do really stupid things that I just strongly disagree with. And so I did everything in my power to get Draymond Green to block me on Twitter for the days following that event. Ironically enough, I haven't seen him on Twitter at all since that whole situation went down. And he's one of those guys that tweets all the time. He was tweeting for days right leading up to that. But I think why it's got me on fire so much is not just because you just never do that to someone ever, let alone lie about it. Oh, it was an accident. Well, if it was an accident, okay, here's my issue with that. If it was unintentional, let me then put yourself in that shoes. Maybe you've done it. Have you ever unintentionally kicked, punched, elbowed, kneed, bumped, hit, struck a man in the junk? Have you ever accidentally done that? If you have, or if you can even just project yourself to that situation, if you haven't, you would know with a 100% certainty, you would know that it is instinctual to immediately apologize profusely. Like it overcomes you. You immediately feel like the smallest person in the world, and you just, oh my gosh, I'm so sorry. Oh man, I'm so sorry. You know what Draymond Green did after he did it? He looked at the ref and complained that he got called for a foul for doing it. He didn't once look at the guy who he just kicked, go, "Oh man, sorry," nothing. He was upset. Oh, the only reaction he had was to what the referee did, not to what he himself did. And that just, man, you're gonna do that, and then you're gonna have the frickin' gall to lie about it afterwards. I mean, oh man, takes a special kind of scumbag. I'm telling you. Yes, I just called Draymond Green a scumbag. But that's the painful thing that I've come to feel and think, at least. And I'm not saying that that's a correct perception or perspective or interpretation or anything like that. But it just, time and time again, the more I watch these Warriors, they have absolutely no class as a team whatsoever. Steph Curry, I don't get how anybody can find him likable as just, in general, his personality. He's got that freaking George W. Bush SHIT eating smirk, smug ass smirk on his face every time he does anything or says anything or is anywhere. Like, oh, it's so off-putting. And then you got ball kicking Draymond Green. It just, Klay Thompson would probably be the one guy on that team. Well, and Iguodala. Iggy's pretty decent too. But the Curry and Green, who are two of the big three, the big one for sure being Curry, and then it's debatable Green and who's this number two, Green or Thompson. I'd argue it's Green. But when it just, I don't know. When you've got your leaders, the people that represent you, and they're arrogant in their success, and you're kicking people in the balls in defeat, to me that's revealing of character. Those aren't things that, you're just misinterpreting because you don't understand. You're on the other side. It's like, no, to me that's character being revealed more often than not. Not always, but more often than not. And so I find myself going back on my word, which I hate to do, because I said all year, I'm not cheering against the Golden State Warriors. I just want to see them do it without any asterisks. Like last year, they beat a Cavs team in the finals that was only going like 6, barely 7 guys deep every game because they were ravaged with injury. I wanted to see them go up against fully healthy teams that were playing great basketball. And so far, that's been the case throughout this whole playoffs. But because of events that have transpired, and now my new personal feelings on individuals on this team, primarily Draymond Green, I have to go back on my word and admit that I am now genuinely cheering against the Golden State Warriors because I genuinely don't like them. And that's, I didn't want it to come to that. I did not want it to come to that, but you can thank Draymond Green for that. So I am cheering emphatically for LeBron James to do the impossible and bring a championship to the city of Cleveland this year. They advanced to the finals by defeating Toronto in 6 games. They were beating them 2-0. Toronto came back, won their 2 home games, tied it up. And then the Cavaliers ran away with it in the final 2 games. But a great season for Toronto. Dwayne Casey, head coach, their former T-Wolf head coach. They got a really good young team and a good thing going on there. But LeBron James makes his sixth, there we go, consecutive appearance in the NBA Finals. Very impressive for Mr. James. And to get to my analysis here on the finals matchup, and then we'll move on to some hockey. We'll go from balls dribbled to balls out, from balls on fire, balls dribble to balls on ice. But so my take on the finals going into it originally and confirmed after tonight is that this series is really going to come down to the role players, the extras. Cleveland's big three versus Golden State's big three is all going to be fairly consistent and fairly evenly matched. The series is going to be won and lost by guys. If you're on the Warriors side, it's going to be decided by guys named Iguodala and Livingston and Barbosa and Bogut and Barnes. Okay, those are the names that are going to be stepping up big in key spots and making a difference in wins and losses. If you're on the Cavaliers side, the names are going to be Dellavedova, Tristan Thompson, Smith, J.R. Smith, who's been shooting lights out threes this whole playoffs. I want to say he had 0 points going into the fourth quarter here tonight in Game 1. Kevin Love, Kyrie Irving, LeBron James, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, Steph Curry, for the most part, collectively as a group of three, as a threesome, collectively on a night-to-night basis, they're all going to do their thing, and be fairly consistent and fairly predictable in what they contribute. It's those other guys that I just mentioned that are the X factors, and on paper, you've got to like the Warriors bench depth, role players, flexibility style-wise, and experience over the Cleveland Cavaliers. And that's what we saw tonight. The Cleveland Cavaliers studs, LeBron, Kyrie, and Kevin Love, they can compete, they can keep it close, they can even be in the lead. But at some point in time, guys got to sit, guys need to catch their breath for a little bit, guys get into foul trouble, whatever. Those other guys have to step in and be able to contribute efficiently, and we did not see that on a team-wide basis from the Cavaliers here tonight in Game 1. We did see that from the Golden State Warriors here tonight in Game 1, and that is going to be the determining factor in this series. My wishful thinking and prediction would be the Cavaliers in 6 or 7. In all reality, I think that the Golden State Warriors will win in 5 or 6 or 7. But I'm just hoping for a good, competitive, healthy series. If the Warriors go on to win, then they proved it, they earned it this year, and I can't take any of that away from them, nor would I try. And it would, in fact, mean, without question, that they had the greatest season of all time in basketball history. To clarify, that does not mean that they are the greatest team of all time, even if they are to win the championship, just because they had the regular season record for wins this year in addition to it. You cannot say that with any certainty because of the inconsistency of competition that every champion faces throughout sports history, and you can't say that, well, because this team won a title and won the most games, that they're better than this other team who won a title and won less games. You don't know that. Maybe the other team had played way tougher competition. Maybe this team didn't play very tough competition. Maybe that other team had some injury issue to overcome throughout the 82-game regular season. That's why their win total was less. You can't just pick that side of the argument cut and dry. You can still choose that side of the argument and argue it, and you may be right. But there's no way to prove it. You need to know that, and you should not take a championship and the most wins in a regular season ever and say, well, you can't argue against that. It means they're the best ever, period. No, it means they had the best season ever. It doesn't mean they were necessarily the best team ever. All right, but with that, I think I'm spent on the basketball talk for tonight. I don't know what more I can possibly give you. So let us put out, let us put out.